I like to think being self-motivated, a go-getter, everything that I grew up working hard and seeing your results, accountability is everything Presidio is to me.
All right, Jeff, so I think what we got here is we found a leak possibly on the back tank here, and we'll just go up there and investigate and see what we can find.
Okay.
It was very minor, and it might have been kind of puffing from just the tanks dumping or something going on.
On these seals, sometimes the weather can get to them and they will have cracks on them, and they will sometimes be missing on the seals, and you have to look out for that. That's what will cause leaks too.
That's where a lot of the seals are going to come from, where the leaks coming from the tanks, from the emissions and stuff will be, that we'll capture on the FLIR camera, will come from those seals around the thief hatches and stuff. So that's something we just got to make sure are clean all the time and inspected periodically.
Oh,
that could have been all that was it.
Yeah.
We'll go
All right.
take another look with the camera and see if that solved our problem.
My name's Jeff Wood, and I've been a pumper for 10 years. Well, when Presidio bought Apache out, I was fortunate enough to come over with the transition. A typical day for a pumper is you start early in the morning and you have to make sure all your wells are flowing and your compressors are running and your plungers are running good, and that's really all about it.
My name is Mark Woodis, and I am the mechanic foreman here at Presidio Petroleum. Presidio is a results-based company, I believe. My industry being a mechanic, I was a pumper before here, then I was a mechanic. I operate the FLIR camera, I operate the echometer camera, I've done some line locating, roustabouting. This company allows you to do everything, and your results, if there's a problem, you can fix it. There's an immediate result to your repairs, and then that's something you can see, and it's very satisfying. It's very important for us to do our part, keep things in check the best we can, and Presidio is at the forefront of it, for sure. Sustainability of the earth. I mean, it's for our future generations, for my kids, and maybe if we can set a trend for the rest of the oil field companies, I'm just very proud to be at the beginning end of it.
Emissions have always been a part of the business, and I don't think that any of the operators in the past have necessarily been willfully ignorant of it or malicious in it. It was just a necessary evil part of the business, and it's always been managed incrementally as best as it can under the given environment and situation. But I think that the extra effort it takes to make that a focus, a core part of your business, where you have a full team to it dedicated to optimize it the best you can, sort of almost independent of any kind of valuation. So it's not necessarily necessary for how we consider getting dollars out of the ground or optimize our business, but I think at this point it is just part of the culture, part of the DNA, where it's just part of what you have to do as an oil and gas operator is actually pay attention to it in an earnest way, not as just a check the box, but have some sort of internal program that actually respects it and tries to improve it over time.
To really show progress, we have to continue going down this track, in good and bad times. And it's not free, it costs us money. It takes money from our bottom line, but I think
Takes
it's
up a lot of
meaningful.
your time.
Yeah, it takes up time. Reducing the methane we emit I think it's one of the important things we can do as a society and across all industries. I think not taking it lightly is an important thing for sure. Whether or not we completely believe in the impact we have on climate change or not, but why emit methane when we don't have to? I think that's where Presidio comes in, and we want to be like the last great steward of these wells, make sure as much of that gas, methane, goes down the pipeline versus gets emitted into the air.
That really speaks to kind of really the culture and the fact that it is kind of embedded here, but also probably across the oil and gas industry too, where it's not quite as antagonistic as maybe it was in the past.
Yeah.
I think it's more integrated to kind of help people think about their business versus us versus them. It's just a part of the business. And I think in that sense, there's kind of more responsibility with the messaging, even externally, internally, because there's a collaboration around it. I think the more that we sort of interact with that space and be stewards of it, the more success it'll have too, because it isn't antagonistic and you're not fighting battles around language or regulatory where it's non-beneficial. We're promoting it and we're pushing it forward. So even if it is incremental relative to where other people might perceive it, it's very deliberate and methodical moving forward because we are engaged in it in a way that we can steward it, because who else can? People can look at the outside and say, this is what you should do. This is, top-down mandates around what has to happen. But as far as implementing it, it has to take this action. You can't just have a stick the whole time. There has to be engagement and belief in the process, not just a threat and, like I say, antagonistic relationship around it. It's very collaborative. I think, at least in the past 5 or 10 years, it's gotten that way, where the way that the industry talks about it, people in the industry, it's not with sarcasm or playful sarcasm. No one's dismissing it. People really do kind of believe it and take it seriously and talk about it as part of the business.
And a lot of people talk about ESG in the energy business because it's often been the Achilles heel of the oil and gas business. Is this business isn't ESG enough. And really, our business plan is predicated on reducing production because production declines naturally over time. It's predicated on reducing emissions because we're removing certain types of artificial lift that are the main contributors to emissions on well sites. And we're also replacing hardware that may be leaking or valves that provide low bleed or no bleed. And so these are all parts that were already a piece of our business plan that we were able to get recognition from Moody's for and issue the world's first sustainability-linked bonds as a part of our commitment to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by 50% on that well set over the next 5 years. And I think we're actually going to do more than that, and I think it's going to be faster. And so when I think about what all that means, it means we were able to put together this business that at every major shift that we took, we were proving something new. We were proving that, yes, you could radically optimize wells. We were proving that you can radically optimize them at scale. We proved that you can radically optimize them at scale in a very short period of time if you have the right systems and tech and people supporting it. And then we learned that you can finance them for the long term with 15-year bonds at very attractive interest rates that enable our providers of equity and debt for acquisition capital to be repaid.
Question for you, Jeff.
Yeah.
So we're very much in the industry. Our biases are, our perspective is from here looking out. And I wonder, around the emissions front, we engage in it culturally because that's just what we know, but people who aren't in the oil and gas industry at all or energy, how prevalent is it on their mind? And as we take efforts to curb our emissions, it makes a global impact if everyone in the world is doing this. But as far as perception on oil and gas companies, does it move the needle? Do people care? Are they engaged in it? Is it just something that happens at once every 6 months there's a headline about it?
I think people are going to be anti-oil and gas. But I do think the concerted effort, I think the push out that the energy we provide here in the United States is some of the cleanest oil and gas that's produced in the world. Emissions-wise, environmental-wise, we do it to a different standard. We provide a very necessary product. Maybe specifically right now when people are seeing gasoline prices high, kind of impacting their thought, well, maybe these guys aren't so bad. Well, some people may not say that, but this is a very necessary product. We want more production, because it allows us to live a better life here. And it also allows us to produce the oil and gas in this world that's cleaner. And the methods we're doing it is providing a cleaner energy. Maybe the perspective will change in that they realize we're getting out in front of this. We're trying to produce the cleanest molecules of petroleum we can. So you should not be ashamed of our industry in the United States. We are some of the most environmentally conscious people out there. And I think that's lost sometimes because people, out in the world aren't really thinking about well, what if you'll just drink a plastic water bottle, throw it away, stuff like that. Our mindset is, how do we reduce emissions? That's what we're thinking. The amount of time that's being spent on emissions, our industry is more impactful than most industries in that respect. I think it's going to pivot for sure. There may be people that always hate us, but we'll keep providing electricity to them because that's what we do.
But only electricity, no. Yeah, I think
EV cars.
Yeah, everyone who uses energy is really kind of the final source of emissions, right? Yeah. So every consumer of a product is actually in themselves kind of an emitter by using it, and so it's kind of easy to put an industry as a symbol of all the emissions. In reality, It's sort of our civilization making it happen. But, I think there are obviously benefits accrue to kind of us, sometimes maybe in the wrong proportion or the right proportion, but different, right? Based on the fact that we kind of are there at the very, very beginning. And maybe that's the perception that drives that so much, as far as it being more antagonistic sometimes. But really, there's a whole chain of emissions. And I think that there's a motive, incentive for emissions to be reduced at the tail end of the use, whether it's vehicles or homes, so on and so forth, because that's sort of the competitive market where people have, they buy it and make the choice, and they can actually affect change. And, there's actually benefits accrue to them from higher efficiencies and so on and so forth. And I think it's taken a long time for that sort of market impulse or cultural impulse even to sort of come back to the very beginning, right? And so I think that's kind of what we're experiencing now, is a natural sort of shift of that prioritization up the chain. And I mean, like I say, it takes both market forces and also just culture for that to happen. I think that it's kind of colliding right now where both those effects are hitting industry in an honest, probably healthy way.
You have this picture of this oil field guy. He's like rough, he's covered in like grease, 5-10 years ago, would just like laugh at you. But the great thing is specifically our Presidio employees, like they just have grabbed hold of this and said like, what can we do? They live in these environments. They want these environments to be as clean as possible. I really like the shift, not only in, corporate like culture, and engineer behind a desk culture, but also like in the field, the guy who's going to his well site saying, well, what can I do to make this well emit less? And so I think there's been a shift there, which you would have never heard of that 20 years ago.
The letters ESG and kind of the nomenclature on ESG has changed a lot in the business over the last 20 years. It went from something that nobody knew what it even meant to now everybody knows what it means, and we're all very focused on it. I like to think that when Will and I started the company, that it was always a part of what we wanted to do. If we're starting a company to operate older wells, and the basic premise of those wells or the business plan is that we operate those wells forever. What does forever mean? Well, forever means from the day you buy them in our business strategy to forever means the day you plug them, the day they no longer produce hydrocarbons. So we've built the business model around doing that and doing it better than other people to create economic returns. But part of that is like the stewardship of the well from now until the end of the time, right? We all, I think, is people on the planet and Americans or anybody believe that there's an energy transition coming, and there should be. There are alternative energy sources out there that are being developed, have been developed, that need to be a bigger part of what the energy stack is today. I think what we believe is that there's a bridge to get us from today, which is a heavy reliance on fossil fuels, to the end, which is little to no reliance on fossil fuels. It's going to take time. It just does. But what we can do in the oil and gas space is we can be a good steward of that time, right? What we can do is we can focus on better ways to get us from point A to point B and do it in the best environmental manner we can. And so what does that mean? That means that as we steward these wells towards the end, we do it in a way that reduces emissions, that reduces pollution, that does those kind of things. Obviously, it's an economic model to be able to create money, but the idea is we want to do this better, and we believe that we can do it better, not only from an operational efficiency from a cost standpoint, but from an operational efficiency of an environmental emission standpoint. So to the extent that we go and buy assets from a major, we want to be able to show them a roadmap to be able to reduce emissions, because we're focused on that. We're focused on cost, we're focused on emissions. I think that's the bridge, right? That's the bridge to get us, because fossil fuels will be part of the energy stack for a considerable period of time as we grow our renewables. Not only is the technology around the renewables, but we just get the renewables implemented. That time between now and whatever that the future is needs to be done in a better manner than it has in the past. And we can do that. So, you'll hear Will say, he wants to operate every well in the U.S. I'm not sure we'll be able to operate every well in the U.S., but I think we can operate a lot of wells, and I think we can operate those wells in a manner that's better than they've been operated in the past, as far as an environmental kind of emissions pollution type standpoint. It's a little kind of warm and gushy to be able to say that we want to do better, but we really do. And if it starts there, I actually think that's how you get the most traction, right? It's not about the financial market. It's not about what money we can raise if we do this or do that. It's like, listen, if we think we should do better, then we're probably going to go do better. We're going to figure out ways to do it. So it's not much different than the business side that, of going out and creating value by doing what we're doing in a contrarian way. I think the idea that we should be better than our predecessors as far as the environment is important. And I think that's why it's working. I do.
You know, Presidio is not just concerned with emissions, but is proactive in reducing them. We want to be leaders, specifically in an environment where we're taking wells to their life, the most environmentally friendly method we can. Moving forward, that's something we look at for every well we acquire, every well that we have. We're continually looking, how do we reduce these emissions? It takes money, but we're willing to spend and put our money where our mouth is, basically. Already, we've, reduced things by, 30% or more in just the last 2.5 years. And we're looking to go even further this year. We're running fast in that direction. That's a race we want to run. I think the industry, if you're not willing to run that race, you're making a mistake. We take a lot of interest in that, and I think that's how it says a lot about Presidio. From the field to the CEOs, we put it on everybody's mind. I think going forward, we're going to keep pushing in that direction. Sometimes it's not, the most sexy thing to do. Sometimes it is. It doesn't matter. Presidio is going to continue down that path, whether it's highlighted or not.
We don't need to be sexy.
We don't need to be sexy. Daniel has enough sexiness for all of us. But, I don't know. That's about it.